All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to the Infowise uh, SharePoint webinar. My name is David Riggins. I'm an Infowise Solutions Developer for Infowise. I've been doing SharePoint for about 5 years, both in the corporate world and as a consultant and solutions developer for Infowise. I've used all the different types of SharePoint, and I've had a lot of different roles from developer to administrator, architect, and I've also been involved with Infowise for about 3 years. I started off using Infowise as a consumer, as a person working for a corporation when I was an architect for SharePoint 2010 and 2013. We were looking around for a solution to help us build applications without having to write custom code and just using configurations. And we looked at a lot of different tools, and Infowise was by far one of the best tools that we used to truly build quick, easy, simple applications inside of SharePoint. You know, it really just changed the way we use SharePoint inside of a corporation. So with that, one other thing I'd like to add is that on top of my SharePoint experience, I have about 10, 15 years experience writing custom code. And that's going to be important because I can kind of tell you from a developer's perspective how writing code in SharePoint is so much easier, or how writing code in SharePoint is really hard, and how Infowise really solves all that. So I've really written code at the lower levels of SharePoint all the way up to configuration. So with that, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the webinar today. If you have any questions during the webinar, by all means, go ahead anytime, just type them into the questions chat window there, and or the questions window there, and I will definitely answer those at the end of the webinar today. And we are recording the webinar, so we'll post it to the Infowise YouTube channel, and you can go and watch that and share it and whatever you might have missed and that kind of stuff. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into SharePoint here. Okay, 1 second, make sure we're all good here. All right, so this is Office 365 SharePoint. We have the Infowise tools installed here. And what you're seeing is a timesheets application. And a little background on the application, it's fairly simple and straightforward. This is just for demonstration purposes. So I have two lists, two custom lists. I have a timesheets list and a time entries list. So if you can imagine, you've got a time card, and every day you're going in there and punching that time card. That's what we're doing right here. And kind of what I want to show you is just how easy it is to write that kind of application inside of Infowise. Just using a couple of clicks and a couple of buttons, you've got, far beyond the capabilities of what SharePoint can do out of the box. So for me, as a software developer, as a SharePoint developer, one of the big things that I felt SharePoint didn't have, and what I've seen in my career, is a way to easily relate two lists to one another. So think about a parent-child relationship, where you have a time entry or a time sheet and multiple different entries. And that's what you're seeing right here, is a time sheet and multiple different entries. Now, in my experience, doing this is very difficult inside of SharePoint. You've got to use a lot of custom coding to make this work. But when you install and use the Infowise tools, you're definitely seeing the parent-child relationship of what's going on here. And this is called the Infowise associated item. So basically I'm associating one list to another. And you can see right here, it's very easy that I've got these time entries inside this time card. And let me jump inside of this timesheet real quick and you can see it. So here's another view of this parent-child relationship. Here's the start date and the end date of the timesheet, and here's the different time entries for this timesheet. And it's very simple stuff. So another really cool feature is going to be, if I click on this edit button, I can actually edit this associated item inside of the edit screen of the other item. It just makes it so easy. So now I have an extremely complicated, or I have a taking what would be in SharePoint a complicated interface with complicated coding and complicated configurations, and I do it inside of Infowise, and it's super simple. And I get these nice, easy screens, single button clicks, and another key feature of these associated items is this inline entry, where I can just simply come in here and add another field. So, do the webinar, and we're going to build this out, and we're going to do 1 hour, and I add it right there. So inside of the main item, I'm adding an entry. It just makes it so easy to manage parent-child relationships. And think about this in your own business, where you have customers and invoices, and you have cars and parts, and you have employees and reviews, or any kind of like one-to-many relationships. This Infowise associated items takes SharePoint to the next level when you're dealing with the complicated nature of the data in our business these days. So, the next big piece that, for me as a developer, really simplified SharePoint development is adding color to these lists. So adding a visual representation of the data. So I go in and I look at my detail information, and I can see at a glance, without having to read, that this is submitted and it's big and green. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to read. I don't have to try to figure stuff out. I just look at it and I know, okay, here's something that I need to focus on, or here's something that I don't need to focus on because everything's good. And so let me just kind of dig in right here and show you just how easy it is to configure something like this. So this is just a standard choice status field in SharePoint. And what I'm going to do is just pop into the Infowise Design Studio, and you can see I just went to List and Design, very easy, clicked on Design, and now we are inside of the SharePoint, or the Infowise Ultimate Forms list, or tool, dashboard, there's a better word. So we are in the Infowise Ultimate Forms dashboard, and I can come down here to Configure Columns, and I can go to Color Choice. And right here, there's my status. And all I have to do is click one button, choose the field, and I'm done. It's that simple. If I want to add a new one, I add a new one. But I can come in here and use any of these multitude of icons, and I can also add my own. It's just super flexible. If you want to create very complicated, indicators and key performance indicators and all that kind of stuff, with 2 easy button clicks, I am right back. I am creating this stuff, and it just makes it so easy. All right, so what we're going to do, the next visual piece that I really, really enjoy in SharePoint, that just made things, it just opened my eyes when I was developing SharePoint applications for corporations. I was coding in .NET and I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but when you show your boss that you can easily come in here and with 2 clicks create a progress bar that's based on list data, and I can just come in here and see simply what's going on here, that's a key performance indicator right there. That's 85% almost done. Let me show you how easy that is. We're going to go to the utilization field. Again, all I do is simply click on list, and I go into the Infowise Ultimate Forms Design Studio, and then I go down in here to indicator, and you can see I've got all kinds of stuff I can do. And this is just scratching the surface right here. But you can see I choose a progress bar, I choose the column that I want to do, and I say, hey, start the progress bar from 0 to 40, hit the save button, 1 button, and I'm done. I mean, that to me was just huge. And after I saw this kind of stuff, I was putting 15 bars and all kinds of charts and all kinds of indicators and fields and color fields and icons, and I was just going nuts with it. But it really It's just that simple, and it makes it so much easier to get this stuff in there. I think for me, after being able to do, parent-child relationships, what I would say is the next big thing that I ran into, both as a SharePoint developer and as a .NET developer and building business solutions, is how do I take many, many, many fields and make it easy and simple for everyone to use. And for me, the Infowise tabs just really makes it so you can easily come in here. You can choose which fields you want on which tab. I can take super complicated amount of fields and data and all that kind of stuff, and I can easily put it into different tabs. And there's just so much you can do here that I'm not even going to dig in. It's just, you can do security based on tabs, you can do security based on fields. I can show and hide stuff. It's incredibly the control you can get by simply going in here and adding tabs. And I'm going to pop in here real quick and just show you how easy it is to put these tabs in here. So again, I'm just going to go to list. I'm going to go back to this Design Studio. And instead of going down to the bottom, I'm going to do layouts here. And I'm going to go into tabs. And all I have to do to add a new tab is come in here and add one button. Now, when I can come in here and choose this field very simply and put them in there. And that's it. I hit save and I'm done. So instead of using complicated coding and spending weeks doing doing jQuery or some other crazy language, I can easily come in here and 3 button clicks and I'm showing all, I'm implementing tabs, I'm showing fields on tabs, I've got security, I've got all kinds of features that I'm not even going to dig into here. But to me, on top of doing the parent-child relationships, on top of seeing the different colors and easily assessing data, being able to quickly and easily format, into different sections, different tabs, and have security based on all of that, it's just a very, very powerful tool and very easily configured. One last thing that I want to show you, and this is going to be, for me, I think being able to report on your data, being able to notify people, because let's be honest, not all of the people who are going to use your SharePoint applications are actually going to go to SharePoint when you want them to. A lot of people use SharePoint through email and through alerts and those kind of things. And the Infowise tool really takes the SharePoint alerts, which are just your basic alerts, and you don't have a lot of control, you don't have a lot of abilities to go in there and format and make things the way you want. But Infowise took alerts and really took it to the next level. You can come in here into alerts and you can format the emails, and you can pick when to send stuff. Who do you want to send it to? You can base who you want to send stuff to based on fields in your list. The configurations of these alerts are just endless. But for me, the real win of the alerts is being able to come in here and format my alert. And it's almost like, it's basically like creating a report. You come in here and you can make, you can make your own formats. You can easily use this tool here as a template for your emails. And I'm putting fields in here and I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So, for those users that don't like to go to SharePoint, you can easily come in here and give them SharePoint through their email. You can give them information that they need to take action on quickly and easily. You can control when they get it. You can control, what they see, what they receive, and that's just super powerful. And it's just so much more, more features than you're going to get out of your standard SharePoint alert system. And I've used all kinds of different workflows, and I've used all kinds of different parts and pieces to make this stuff work in SharePoint. And honestly, for me and my money, being able to do an alert like that, it makes it super easy, super simple, and you are on top of getting, people working, which is really kind of where we're doing. Okay, so that's basically, what the overview of kind of what I wanted to show today. There's a couple of other things before I get to questions here. The demo for SharePoint or for Infowise is right here. And you can go in here and get the free trial. It's very easy to install, both in Office 365 and the on-premises version. They make it really easy to get in there and see if it's a good fit for you, and I highly recommend you give that a shot. If nothing else, you install that. We do offer training. We have extensive training on all the different parts and pieces. We do a lot of videos, training on how to do stuff, and we'll show you how to do it in the videos. It's very, very good training. We also do paid training. If you're interested in that, we'll do one-on-one sessions, or we'll bring on a group of people and we'll train those people. And if you have any kind of questions about that kind of stuff, just go ahead and contact sales@infowisesolutions.com. They are very easy to work with. I've worked with them both as as part of their company and as a consumer, and I can tell you they really have the best customer service out there of any of the SharePoint tools, the third-party tools that I've used. They're very responsive. They answered all my crazy questions that I ever had about this stuff when I was using it in corporations. That they are definitely really awesome when it comes to that. So before I get to questions, I guess one last thing I'll talk about is we do webinars every month. So if you have any, if you're still interested and still want to see more features, we change up the webinars every month. We do different stuff and show different parts and pieces and try to keep it snappy and new and anything like that. So, by all means, join us for next month's webinar and we'll show you the next parts and pieces here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move into questions here. I got quite a few questions. I'm going to kind of start here at the top. So the first question is, let me make sure, the free SharePoint, we do not use Office. Each of our users has a licensed copy at Microsoft Office. So Office 365, I'm not quite sure. I think this is for Mr. Ray here. How can a person accomplish this using the free SharePoint? So, if you're using free SharePoint, I guess what you probably mean by that is Office 365. This definitely works in Office 365, and all you do is you go to the App Store and you install the app, and that's probably a little bit beyond our scope here today, but just go on to either support or look at the free trial button in Infowise, and they'll get you started on installing it into your Office 365 installation. All right, next question. The details bar are very different with a green indicator. How can you submit but only have the green partially filled in? So I guess what Mr. Zanetti there, the question is all three of your examples are submitted, but the details bar are very different with respect for green indicator. How can you submit and only have the green partially filled? So, that's just part of what I'm showing here is, that your utilization is how much is that resource being used. So what we're really doing inside of this is we're saying, okay, well, you've used 12 hours, but you have a 40-hour week, so your utilization is only this percentage. So really it's kind of some complicated math, not complicated, but it's some math that's going on behind the scenes, like I showed you the total hours. That's what's going on here. So you don't have to submit 40 hours. That's kind of the point to that piece there. So the question is what if the progress bar goes over 100%? Well, that's kind of how you develop the progress bar. So when you saw our total hours, it's from 0 to 40. So if you have over 40 hours, it's just not going to show that. It'll do. As far as the cost, if you're asking about cost for different types of licenses and different types of organizations, I would definitely just contact sales@infowisesolutions.com, and they'll be able to hook you up with any kind of pricing or questions that you might have with any of that. So next question, my company is looking for a paid time off app. Can this tool calculate days and send approval? Absolutely. So any kind of calculations, it's very easy to get in there and put in all kinds of calculations. Smart actions, might be the best course of action to look into. That's kind of it'll do calculations on different times and different places, and it'll send email. I would definitely look into the smart actions if you're wanting to develop a more sophisticated paid time off type application. The next question, can you load the timesheet of the current user, restricting access to a user to only their timesheet? Absolutely. So there's a lot of ways of accomplishing that. If you wanted to create a different view for, and you can use that view to filter and only see your timesheets, you could definitely do that. One of the great things that Infowise offers is the ability to set permissions for views. So I could come in here in this administrator view right here. I could make it to where only certain people can see the administrator view based on SharePoint credentials. So that's a really handy way of, you can create different views for certain people and then restrict them from being able to actually click on other views. That's a very powerful feature inside of Infowise. I need to create normal columns to manage them inside Ultimate Forms. So all of the columns that you create, say, this, if you're creating this utilization column or the statum column, these are standard SharePoint columns. This is a standard choice field. Infowise just goes in and enhances what you're seeing right here. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but that might be pretty close here. Yes, definitely. So the next question is, will there be a recorded link? Don't worry about it. We're definitely recording this, and I'm going to load it to the Infowise YouTube channel, where you can go and see this, and it'll probably be about an hour from now. I'll get that uploaded, and there's definitely a lot more webinars and a lot more training videos on there, and a lot more information if you're interested. So definitely check out the Infowise YouTube channel if you have more information, and you can definitely find this recording there here in a little bit. Can Infowise be installed on premises? Yes, you can definitely install this on premises. You can install this for SharePoint 2010 on premise, SharePoint 2013 on premise, Office 365, all of those you can do. Exported to Excel. So the question is, can the time tracking information from SharePoint easily be exported to Excel? So Infowise offers a really great feature called the Smart Alerts, and there's also a reporting feature of that where you can go in and set up reporting, and it's similar to Crystal Reports. Probably you can go in there and set up all kinds of different formats and things like that. So there's definitely an extra feature in Infowise that will enable you to easily go in there and create reports from any of this data. And that kind of answers the compliance question. I've definitely dealt with that in my career doing compliance. You can definitely export to reports and stuff like that. That's definitely there. So as far as pricing is concerned, well, he's left now, but yeah, definitely just check with sales and Infowise, and they'll be able to help you out with any pricing. The new SharePoint user the standard version. So to do the timesheets, we could use the standard version. I'm not sure. You would use the Infowise Ultimate Forms version. That's kind of the answer to that question, just depending on what feature set you're wanting to use. A specific version of SharePoint we have to make all of this stuff work. I'd say that the answer is that Infowise Ultimate Forms works on all the different versions of SharePoint, 2010, 2013 on-premise, and Office 365, so you can definitely make it work. Let's see. Reporting, another reporting question. You definitely have a lot of reporting that you can do out of here in the Infowise reporting module. Don't think that works. How does this work on mobile devices? So the rendering for mobile devices is really good. You'll have to, everybody's data is different. You know, without having a mobile version, I can't really show you that, but I've had good experience with the mobile version of Infowise rendering of all this information. As far as the question is how does the form store the data? Can the data be stored in SQL Server? So the way this form is storing data is, you know, this is inside of just a standard SharePoint Infowise, or I'm sorry, a standard SharePoint custom list. So this isn't anything different than a standard SharePoint list. And then can the data be stored in SQL database? Yes, there is a really great tool called Infowise Smart Import Pro, and we have a great example up on our Infowise YouTube channel of importing data from a SQL server and connecting to the database and doing stuff like that. So definitely check that out if you're interested in using Infowise and getting some simple, easily configured connections to databases. Let's see, next question. Copy move from server A to server B. So if you have, that's a great question. The question is how to copy move from server A to server B. So I assume kind of what we're talking about there is how can I move Infowise information, the configurations from one server to another server. And you can definitely move that. They have a tool called Template Manager, and it makes a really easy interface where you can actually extract the Infowise settings that you have in one site and move it to another site, another server, and it's just a couple of button clicks and you're moving all of the Infowise configurations as you do right here. So if you have like a development environment and you want to move Infowise from development, or your Infowise settings for a particular site from development to production, you can definitely take a look at that Template Manager, and I think that's going to be a good solution for you there. Let's see, let's find another good one here for our last minute. Different payroll system. The YouTube channel, that's a great question. Let me take you to that real quick. I'll go to youtube.com and we'll do Infowise Solutions. If you just type that into the YouTube right there, you'll find the channel and it'll come right up. Okay, there you go. So Infowise, if you put Infowise Solutions into YouTube, you'll find the YouTube channel right there. Okay, guys, that's my time for today. Like I said, I really appreciate this is Infowise. This was the Timesheets webinar. We're going to, if you have any more questions or concerns, you can get in touch with me at davidr@infowisesolutions.com. You can contact sales@infowisesolutions.com. You can check out our YouTube channel. You can go to infowisesolutions.com and take a look at pricing and training and get a demo version, and you can load that on your own Office 365 version. And with that, I think that's our time for today. I really appreciate everybody coming.